I gave up my career, my comfort, and my friends for his dreams, but when I found my own path and asked him to support me, he called it betrayal, and what came after changed my life forever. My husband and I have been married 10 years. We have a good marriage and have never faced any truly difficult times. It'll be difficult to explain everything that goes into this, but I'm happy to expound in the comments. Basically, the last decade has largely been focused on achieving financial independence. I had never been a very business-oriented person until I met my husband. He is extremely entrepreneurial and his passion for it is catching. We have run our own businesses together and separately throughout our marriage. The goal has always been to make enough money on location-independent businesses we can live freely. Not necessarily retire, but have more freedom. Because of his encouragement, I am now on a career path that could easily result in that. In 10 years, we have moved 25 times, all because better opportunities have presented themselves or current opportunities have dried up. We're now facing 26 with 27 not far away because 26 doesn't look like that good of a prospect. Without giving away details, my business fluctuates greatly. I've had months where I pull in mid-5 figures and long stretches of a few hundred. My career outside of this is food service with a very definite wage ceiling. My husband's career is professional and he can easily find a 6-figure salary position. His current online business currently brings in low 4 figures. We have always relied on his going back to work when money runs low. He's in high demand, can practically snap his fingers and get a job. I cannot. Here's the conflict, and where I'll try to eliminate as much of my bias as possible. My husband is completely burned out. He physically and emotionally can't deal with the stress of going to work right now. He has supported me through the last couple years when my income has been low. I've always been aware of my financial contribution and make up for it by carrying the grand majority of the household chores. Even when I was working 60+ hours as a manager and pulling in half his wage. But as our savings are dwindling, it's looking more and more like I'll have to get a job. That means pushing my business to the back burner, working a physically demanding job, all for a quarter of the pay he could get. I'm not one to spend money. We didn't have a wedding. We bought my wedding band 3 years after we got married. I cut my own hair. I work from home in sweatpants. It's not as though I've forced him to work jobs he hates in order to provide me with an extravagant lifestyle. I have worked shit jobs to help provide for us in the past, and even when my business isn't earning a ton, I still put in 50+ hours a week. I'm craving stability. Not permanence, just the feeling that I can unpack our boxes and not feel like I should save them in a closet knowing in 6 to 9 months I'll need them again. We've been child-free for years, but the last couple years the topic has been coming up more and more. Yet I feel it's impossible to even discuss the idea of starting a family in the face of such uncertainty. I miss my cats, they're living with my parents overseas. I want a fish tank and a place to hang pictures. He says, if you want those things, then make them happen. Which, fair enough. I completely agree with. I don't want to rely on him to provide the life I want, however it leaves me feeling a combination of emotions I can't really put a word to. I find myself going through mental exercises of, what would I do in this situation if I were single? How would I support myself? And I start to feel resentful. I'm not single. I'm married. And not only that, I'm not sure I can make enough money to support us. I desperately want him to find what it is he's meant to do. I don't care about the money or the dreams of financial independence if it means he's miserable trying to get there. He's been trying to work out which direction to change to for the past year and has yet to come up with anything solid. I know it's all about give and take, but I can't help but feel. I don't know. I don't have the words. And I'm at a complete loss as to how we resolve this. By the way, we have talked about all of this about 957 times already. There is nothing written here he hasn't heard before. TL.Dr. Husband has always been the primary earner with well-paying jobs, but has experienced serious burnout. As we're eating into our savings, it looks like I'll have to put my business on hold and go back to work. Our discussions about steps forward have left me feeling resentful about our roles in the relationship. Am I being a spoiled brat about it all? Edit, I appreciate all the comments and opinions. This got a lot more response than I expected. Just a few things. It's difficult to sum up an entire life in a few hundred words. The moves have been for varied and, obviously with 25 of them, multiple reasons. Some were because my husband was offered a good job. Others were to be nearer family. I've been pursing my side business for the last 3.5 years. The 7 prior to that I was in full-time employment, sometimes working a full-time job while also helping to run our own business. He has not financially supported me for 10 years. I'm not sure where people got MLM from, but I'm in a creative field. As I said, I don't want to reveal details, but I create products and then sell them online. We are not scam artists, nor do we have to leave town because people are catching on to our pyramid scheme. LOL, as far as financials go, again, it's impossible to sum up 10 years of income. But we go through feast and famine periods, times when money is flowing in and times when we live off what we've earned. We never live outside our means, and when money is good, we put thousands a month away to prepare for the down times. It's not a typical way of living, so I understand it's not easily relatable. Some of OP's comments. Commenter, it sounds like he has finally burnt out from being the one in the relationship to be the financial rock. That is exhausting after a while. It's great that it has allowed you the freedom to try your hand at myriad other things, but it put a lot of pressure on him. It looks like I'll have to put my business on hold and go back to work. That is a very telling statement. Your business hasn't provided the work that you need to contribute equally. His has. It looks like it's time for you to step up and do the work and not the business, for now. I think you need to just suck it up and work for now and get him into counseling. Then, you two really need to sit down and figure out a different way to live. You've tried this path for 10 years and it's not working. You need to figure out a way to have stability as a couple that doesn't burn one or the other of you out. See a career counselor and a financial counselor. OP, I readily hold my hands up and say I have a spoiled streak. I guess it would be a lot easier for me to accept going back to work if he had an idea, an inkling, of what his next steps would be. But maybe that's just it. His job right now is to get better. OP clarifies again, I know it isn't clear in my original post, but it's not like I'm sitting around doing nothing all day. I easily put in more work on my business than he does on his, plus take care of the domestic stuff. I'd like to think there is more to the balance of a relationship than financial contribution. And there have been times I have financially supported us. It hasn't always been one-sided. I work hard to try and change it, but I guess the reality is, it isn't changing right away. Commenter, so, you both have entrepreneurial side businesses and full-time jobs? Plus moving every 3 to 6 months for the last 10 years? That would burn anybody out. I know financial independence is a dream, but it seems like if both put down roots, maybe for a specified time, like 4 years, and found stability, burnout wouldn't be a factor. Financially and emotionally, starting over takes a toll. OP, we go back and forth when it comes to the full-time employment. Because of his high salary and short lifespan when working, it's been more like 6 months on, several months off, but there is always a side business. Always, LOL. Savings clarification, when I say savings are dwindling, there is a lump of money in the savings account that we never, ever touch and treat as the rock bottom. We never get close to that amount, so in my mind, what we have to live off in savings is running out. When we budget, we don't feel like we're doing well unless we're able to put money away at the end of the month. After 10 years of working, we are definitely not where either of us would like to be. That's not to say the experiences and ups and downs weren't worth it. I honestly don't think it's in my husband to buckle down with a 9-to-5 job and squirrel away money for retirement. I have always been happy to help him pursue his goals of owning/running his own businesses because I have faith in him. It's clear after talking through this on here, we're at a fork in the road. Commenter, your husband is about to hit rock bottom and you're not far behind. That money was saved for emergencies. This situation is not that different than your husband being temporarily disabled. At the very least, you need to consider touching it. OP, I appreciate the way you put that. It makes it easier to lock onto in my mind, thank you. Commenter, it sounds like both of you, like a lot of people who don't much care for the 9-to-5 but do work hard when you find your inspiration, don't know how to plan for self-maintenance. So my question to you is, are both of you really using your time and enthusiasm wisely? Staying put for 2 years is absolutely nothing in the grand scheme of things. Making a plan to say get to X level of income, then investing in a place in South America and making that your 6-month home base where you go between looking for opportunities in your own country, is also an option. It would give you a solid place to paint the walls and unbox, and cut in expenses while you stay there. OP, I relate to this completely. I'm completely guilty of not building in time to recover and relax. In fact, over Christmas was the first time I've taken away from my work in 3 years. I believe part of my resentment is misguided toward my husband, our situation, because I poured so much of myself into grabbing onto success. When it hasn't worked out, I feel like 1, a failure, and 2, like I could have done more. Your last point has been something I've suggested over the last year, as a compromise of sorts, so it's interesting to read someone suggest it, smiley face. Thank you. Update, 10 months later I'm writing partly to sort all this out in my head and partly for outside perspectives. I don't even know what to think anymore. Again, I'm happy to explain any details that need fleshing out if it helps. I'll try to be concise, and I truly appreciate you reading. 9 months ago, I posted asking for help about my frustration with going back to work after my husband burned out in his career, previous post in my history. For the sake of anonymity, I tried to be vague with the details and many thought our work was on the dodgy side. I don't care about keeping it anonymous, all these factors are relevant. I'm an author, I self-published books and made a decent living doing it for several years. My husband is a software developer and mainly buys existing online companies, and fixes them up to sell. When that's not working, he tries to work a normal 9 to 5, but typically lasts no more than 6 months. His last attempt was one day. My career before this was in the food industry, which means crap pay, long hours, and very sore feet. I got a job that pays 95% of the bills, the rest is covered by savings. Yeah, I'd rather be working for myself, but I like it. I'm good at it. It's the first time I actually enjoy going to work. For the last few months, I've been slowly changing and it feels like my husband and I are drifting apart. At first I thought it was a natural phase, things will definitely feel different compared to working under the same roof all day and night. Now, I don't know. From the previous thread, he says, if you want those things, then make them happen. Which, fair enough. I completely agree with. I don't want to rely on him to provide the life I want, however it leaves me feeling a combination of emotions I can't really put a word to. I find myself going through mental exercises of, what would I do in this situation if I were single? How would I support myself? And I start to feel resentful. I'm not single. I'm married. And not only that, I'm not sure I can make enough money to support us. I am making enough money to support us and it feels good. It's given me confidence in a way I haven't had before. But, it's also made something glaringly obvious in our relationship, we disagree on just about everything and we have very little in common. I'm happy to work on my writing on the side while I work. He thinks I've given up on our dream and have settled for a world, the 9 to 5, Monday to Friday world, he is loath to spend time in. He sold his business and is still figuring out what he wants to do next. I want to buy a flat in the city. He wants to move to the country, or use our savings to travel or live remotely. I want to settle for a while and make friends. He thinks there's plenty of time for that in the future. I want to make our home cozy and put up decorations like photos and artwork. While he likes it, he thinks of it all as just pointless stuff we shouldn't waste money on. I could go on, but you get it. It feels like literally everything I like, he hates. I've also realized that most of the moves, most of the big decisions were things I went along with. I'm not saying he bullied me or anything, just that I didn't feel too strongly one way or the other, so tended to go with what he wanted. Of course we talked about it, but it rarely was me pulling in the bulk of the income, so I didn't feel like I had much of a say. Now I feel strongly about a life direction and have the ability to make it happen, and I feel guilty? He says I've changed, that he's the same as he's been, wants the same things he's always wanted. This is me altering the situation, which I agree with. But it's not like it's this massive bait and switch plan. Our entire marriage I've talked about settling down. I'm rambling. Here's the way I see it. We both love each other and genuinely want to make the other happy, which is why over 10 years, we've both compromised on choices that go against what we individually want. He goes to work for a little while so I can have a semi-stable home. I bounce around the world with him so he can discover himself and his career. But our tolerance for these periods have become too short to manage. He physically can't work for another person. I want to scream when I think about packing up my stuff and starting over again. Have we just spent so much of our marriage being distracted by the exciting newness of moving and pushing for financial independence, we didn't notice how little we have in common otherwise? I can't help but feel like this is on me, not my fault, per se, but on my shoulders. I'm the one rocking the status quo, and if I want things to balance out, it's up to me to adjust my expectations. TLDR, things in my marriage have shifted drastically since I started working again. For years, my husband said that if I want stability in our life, I have to make it happen. I did. And now things are worse than ever. Some of OP's comments, commenter, they do, love. This is a really unconventional way to look at it, but if you met your husband now as a new relationship, would you be excited about the guy? Interested? Would he make you laugh and make your coffee just the way you like it? I'm not saying we all should hold our partners to the standards of the honeymoon stage of a relationship, but we should be in a relationship where we at least are attracted to each other and have basic values and preferences that are compatible. Edit, P.S. I think it's really cool that you have a job that you enjoy and you are a writer. OP, thank you, smiley face. I consider myself incredibly lucky to have both. I've often posed your question to myself, would we get together now as a new relationship? I think I'd still adore his passions and perspective on life, they're intoxicating. He's a sweet guy, always looking out for me and remembers little things I like. He has a habit of giving me a kiss when he leaves the room, even if he's just going away for a half hour. Obviously, I could go on. I really think we need to go talk to someone professionally, Thank you for reading. Hug to a longer comment. Before I get lost in my own selfish thoughts, I want to wish you luck with your businesses. It's not easy, and I have loads of love for people who hustle for their passion. The friends and roots things is a real sore point for me. Our whole marriage we've been firmly child-free. The last 2 years, we had a last blast of "are we actually sure we're sure," which threw up a lot of discussions about the future and what we envision. We're sure. No kids. But that means if I want a network of people near and around me, I have to work to make that happen. I have no family and his family is ambivalent about seeing each other. All my friends have become acquaintances because of the moving. I see this lonely life ahead of me with no one in it, and that scares me. I just wish, and I know how ludicrous it sounds as I write it, but I just wish the normal life he could build with me would be enough for him. We could have an amazing, stable life full of traveling and friends and everything people dream of. But he sees getting a job as trading his life, his time, for money, and that's not a deal he wants to make. Thank you for your reply, and I really do wish you luck. Update: 7 years later, I was recently cleaning out my bookmarks and found this old throwaway, and obviously the 2 posts I made with it. I'm not sure why now, but I feel compelled to write a follow-up. Maybe it'll give people the bravery to change, or at least an example of how sticking with what you know isn't always the best choice. An obviously very long story short, with the help of those posts and a lot of long nights of thinking, I left my husband. In fact, it took him going away for a long weekend to realize how much happier and at peace I felt without him around. At first the split was amicable, but looking back I think he was just waiting for me to come rushing back to him once I realized my mistake. When that didn't happen and he could see I was actually serious about building a new life for myself, a switch flipped. We only spoke when he needed something from me, and eventually that stopped too. Enough about him. I'm now 42, happier and healthier and more satisfied than I've been my whole life. I picked me, and that was the best choice I could have ever made. I lived alone for the first time, and my God, the peace of having my own space, unrivaled. I ended up staying in that apartment for 5 years, not a moving box in sight. I put art on the walls, I knew my neighbors. I made a home. I grew my career and went back to school. Made friends, built a little community. I've done a ton of therapy and realized that the abusive patterns my parents created in childhood were just repeating with my ex. I fell in love, a real love, a supportive love that encourages growth and security. I'm doing new work that helps people and is so much more than just chasing money. All of those things have created a life that's more rewarding than I ever thought possible for myself. I've gone through some really shitty times too: illness, cancer scares, deaths, loss, but I have no idea how I would have come out the other side without the community I'd built around me. Even something as simple as people at your local coffee shop recognizing you is a comfort after feeling adrift and alone for so long. Anyway, if I were to respond to myself from 7 years ago, this is what I would say. Leave the loser. He doesn't care about you, never did. He only cares about what you can do for him, and now that you aren't serving him, well, just go. You are capable of doing difficult things, and you are worthy of the work it takes to accomplish them. Trust your abilities, trust your gut, it's been screaming at you for years now. Honey, life can be so much more than you've experienced, but you have to make it happen for yourself. TL.Dr. Left my husband, happier than ever. Edit: I'm surprised but happy this found so many people. I genuinely thought I was going to bookend this story and have it disappear into the ether. But whatever urge I had to write it, and whatever brought you to reading it, who knows? Maybe it was meant to. Thank you for all the messages and comments. I feel so grateful to have this perspective and experience. Moving on to our next story, and it says, my husband told me he settled for me. I was a single mom of 2 when I met my husband. My husband is 9 years older than me. I was 33 when we got married. I'm 41 now. My kids are grown and out of the house now too. My husband got drunk and revealed terrible things that I wish I just didn't know. He married me because he didn't want to die alone. He only had 2 relationships, 3 total if you include me. He's not attracted to women that look like me. He said I'm overweight and he was very underwhelmed by my appearance, but he learned to love me on the inside because even though I'm ugly on outside, I'm so beautiful on the inside, and that's what makes me different from the other girls. And the way he said that to me, he made it sound so genuine, like he was saying something so sweet and romantic to me, but it's like, dude, you don't realize you just called your wife ugly? Like, wow, what? I cried so much that night. He did apologize so much since that happened, but I can't get out of my head that my husband thinks he's too good for me. He also said in no world he thought he would ever marry a single mom and basically be a cuck and be a dad to someone else's kids. But he said he didn't want to die alone and I was his only option, so he took on my baggage. I think my husband thinks he deserves better because he's not overweight and he's more financially stable than most guys. I feel like that he thinks he deserves a hot 22-year-old girl with no kids. I don't know honestly. But it does hurt me that he thinks I'm ugly and he just married me because he didn't want to die alone. I've had people tell me to get over it and everyone settles, but I have a hard time believing that every married couple settles. Relevant comments. Commenter 1, holy hell. Be prepared for the, I was drunk, I didn't mean it. And, honestly, walk. There is no coming back from this that doesn't include excuses and justifications. You've got one shot at this life. Don't spend it like this. OP, he did apologize the next day about everything and he said that he shouldn't have said it like that. He didn't really take back anything that he said. It was more so insinuating to the fact that he just shouldn't have said it so bluntly the way he did. He says he fell in love with me for my personality and the person I am on the inside. He says it's basically like the show Love is Blind. He doesn't care anymore that I'm ugly and he grew to fall in love with me for me. Commenter 2, wow. I don't think I could get past that. Was he a good stepdad? OP, he was a better dad than their real dad was. My kids call their stepdad their dad and they call their bio dad by his real name. Commenter, so go to the gym, and make him pay for liposuction. Make him pay for tummy tucks. A boob lift, not implants, a lift. He might die before you, so he needs to pay for beauty spa treatments for you so you can snag another old gizzard that will kick off and leave you a condo in Florida. Does he get drunk a lot? Alcoholics have shorter lifespans. You need a life insurance policy. OP, I really don't care to get plastic surgery and to look a certain way. I know I'm not conventionally attractive to the general population, but I don't feel like I was created just for the male gaze. I'm old, I don't care how I look anymore. I did care way too much how I looked when I was in my 20s and it was so toxic that it destroyed me and I refuse to go back to that. I'm so content with just chillin' and not worrying about how I look now. I'm 41, I'm relaxin'. Update, 4 days later I had a lot of feedback from my first post and everyone asked for an update. There is an update. I spoke with my husband about this and he wants to make our marriage work. He said he doesn't care how I look like and I should be happy he's with me for me and not the way I look. It's just hard for me to get past. It's hard for me to carry on in this house with him knowing my husband thinks I'm ugly. The only reason I hesitate leaving him because I'm 41 and barely worked since I gotten married. I haven't worked since I was a single mom. I job hopped a lot from random low entry positions. He made me feel like I'll get nowhere in life since it's too late to start a career at my age. He laughed and asked me what will I even do? He does have a point there. I don't know what I'll do. I don't know what I want to do. I hated every job I worked and I worked a lot of different kinds of entry-level jobs from actual labor, waitressing, customer service, receptionist. I know I'm gonna get hate for saying this, but I think I might be unhappier going back to the workforce, spending majority of my day at work scheduling appointments and speaking to people on the phone. Barely get paid a living wage too. I think I'm gonna choose to stay for money. Sure, if I divorce him I'll get some fats money, but it's not long term. Even with alimony, that's not forever. Alimony just isn't the same as it was back in the day. Relevant comments. Commenter 1, honestly, and I will probably get downvoted for this. But it sounds like you both are getting something out of this marriage. He gets someone to live with and you don't have to work and you have someone who provides for you and your kids. If you are both content, then attraction and love don't really matter. I know people on Reddit like to go scorched earth if people aren't in love like it's a Disney film. But if you want to stay, then do it. But I do have questions. Is your husband conventionally attractive? And as callous as this might sound, are you both in each other's league? Because if you are, then I can see why what he said in your first post would have been incredibly shocking. And he is a hypocrite. But if you aren't, did you have no idea that he didn't find you attractive before you got married? Or did he lie to you? Because if he lied, then that's where the problem is. OP, 100% agree with you. I don't think it's a divorce-worthy thing simply because he felt like he settled for me. I know regardless people will think he is too good for me and they would think he settled for me just because I was a single mom anyways. He might have settled for me. I don't really bring much to the table. I was the ugly, broke single mom when we met and he was the wealthy older man, so from other people's eyes too they would think he was the one that settled. I guess it shouldn't matter if he felt like he did settle for me. He still loves me for me and not the way I look. I can't force someone to be attracted to me. I do know I'm not attractive. I have eyes and I have seen myself in the mirror. It just still hurts hearing it, cause it was the first time he said what everyone was thinking. And no, we're both ugly, but I still find him attractive, but I'm trying to say that he's not conventionally attractive like other women wouldn't be turned on by him physically. He kind of looks like Brian Baumgartner from The Office. He was more attractive when we met though. Commenter 2, you can gain skills at 41, you are still young. Try going back to school if you can. If you don't like it then stop, but you may love it and gain some confidence. OP, I definitely don't want to go back to school again. I was never good at school and it was never something I enjoyed doing. I was very depressed in school. I still get nightmares about being in a classroom. Commenter 3, if I'm being honest, it seems like you're both getting something, but I would start creating a life for myself outside. If you're staying for money, actually use that money to explore your interests and find true fulfillment and relationships outside of this person. Invest in you. OP, I have explored around. I have dabbled in all sorts of different jobs. I'm going to be honest, I don't like working. The only joy I felt in life is being around my family and children and being at home watching movies and TV shows. I don't even like cooking, so I wouldn't say I love the housewife shit, lol. I'm a very lazy person. Moving on to our next story, and it says, when my M30 wife, F28, and I got married 4 years ago, we both wanted children. Now, after 4 years of marriage, she changed her mind without ever telling me. We met when she was a college freshman and I was a sophomore, and we started dating about 2 years after meeting. We really hit it off. She is the most wonderful person I've ever known. We get along great together and have always had a good relationship for the most part. Obviously, like every couple, we have our fights, but we've always been good except for the past few weeks. Children have always been very important to me. I love kids, I'm a huge family person, and I've always wanted to have several, at least 3. She knew that since before we even dated, and I always understood that she wanted to have kids, too. When we started dating, it obviously came up, and she laughed at my enthusiasm for a big family but said it was cute and she wants to have kids, too, in the future. When I began to prepare proposing to her, we obviously had to confirm some stuff, and once again she told me she wants to have kids. I let her know that I want to have kids early, since I really don't want to be an old dad. I want to be able to play with them, have the energy to spend time with them, and look like I'm their dad and not their grandpa. She understood, too. We got engaged, then married, and all this time, when people asked us when the kids were coming, she answered perfectly normally and said maybe sometime soon after the wedding. I'd like to stop just to say that I didn't marry her to have kids, nor do I consider her a baby factory. We dated for a long time and I really genuinely love her. I'm just making sure that you can tell that it was established many times before and during our marriage that we were going to have kids, and that she knew how important this was to me and that she herself told me she considered it important to her, too. After getting married, we promised to wait at least 2 years before having children because we wanted to make sure we had a happy marriage and enough money to properly care for a child. So, we agreed to wait 2 years to settle ourselves together, travel to exotic places, work hard, and set everything up. Plus, we were still young. I was 26 when I married her. I thought 28-29 was a perfectly normal age to start having children. So we waited, at a mutual understanding. Then, when the 2 years passed, I asked her about having kids. She said she was currently going through a really rigorous time at her job because she was close to getting a promotion, but the competition was tight and she really wanted to focus on it without a pregnancy getting in the way. I understood. She eventually got the job, and it was great. Then I asked again, and she said not yet. We moved into a bigger apartment, and she said she wanted to settle in first. I guess, by now, I should have started guessing something was wrong. More time passed, but she insisted I wear a condom and didn't go off birth control. Then, a few months ago, I turned 30. Now I was starting to get worried. I expected to have had at least one child by now. I don't know why I never talked to her about her. We had always been candid about having children together, and I couldn't possibly think of why she would change her mind. All her excuses seemed perfectly reasonable, but now I was getting the inkling that they were just excuses. So we talked about it. I sat her down and told her that I was 30 and I felt I really wanted to have kids before a certain age had passed. We would both be perfect parents, we're happy together, we have a spacious home, both she and I have very high-paying jobs and could be considered wealthy, and her parents live 20 minutes away so they can always help out. That's when she told me she wasn't sure she wanted kids anymore. She said she felt a pregnancy and then giving birth and caring for a baby would take too much away from the career she was building. I was crushed. I told her she doesn't have to quit her job for a child, but she did bring up a point about how much maternity leave would take away from her overall work performance. If she really wanted to continue working, I told her we can both totally afford a nanny for our child to care for her while we're working. Plus, her parents live so close. But she told me she doesn't want to leave our child with a stranger or her parents. It was an awful night. What hurts the most for me is the fact that she'd felt this way for a while now, and she knew how important children are for me, and she should have told me earlier so we could figure things out with more time. After a lot of thinking, I finally told her something I thought might change her mind. I'd quit my job. I'd stay home and care for the child. She wouldn't have to take a day off work after giving birth. I'd be here 24/7 for it and any other babies we might have. I knew this was what I wanted. A child matters much more to me than my job. Our family income is pretty evenly split between the two of us, but even with her income alone we can still live comfortably. But she just said I wasn't understanding her point. Now, I'm completely lost. Here's someone I thought I knew, and it turns out I really don't know anything about her. I understand her goals and ambitions and respect her, but it's still something that is important to me. It's still something that I refuse to age and live my life without experiencing. I'm feeling older now. I feel like I should have had a child by now and I want one soon. I don't want to be too old when it finally starts happening. I asked her if she ever wanted a child, and she just couldn't answer. Since then, we've barely been speaking. I'm going to try to talk to her again and sort this out, because we need to decide what's going to happen. But I don't know what to say. I want to get someone else's perspective, but so far we haven't told anyone and she doesn't want us to. I just don't know what to do right now. Dr. My wife and I got married 4 years understanding we would have kids together because that is very important to me, and she told me she wanted them, too. Now, she says she doesn't know if she wants children and refuses to give a finite answer. I'm worried and feeling old. I want kids soon. I don't know what to do. Please help. Relevant comments. Commenter, her perspective on something has changed. What you need to do is come to terms with what that means for you. If she never wants to get pregnant, do you love her enough to stay with her? Or will you eventually resent/regret being married? If you leave her to find someone else, and women aplenty in the world that do want children, or perhaps already have them, could you be happy with that other woman? Aside of that, has adoption come up? Lots of children in miserable situations in the world. I suppose this really has been the hardest part for me. The woman I love most in the world is in the way of what I want most in the world. It's too hard of a decision to make rashly, but what's hitting the hardest is the fact that I may have to make the decision. I don't know if I have it in me to leave her. She really is the most unique and wonderful person I know. I can find other women who are mothers or want to be mothers, but I can never find someone who thinks and feels and acts the way she does. It's a heavy decision, but it looks like I'll have to start thinking about it. I would like to adopt, but I would also like to have at least one biological child. That being said, she doesn't want to adopt a child. This had come up before we even had this problem. Although she says she greatly admires people who could adopt a child, she doesn't think she could do it herself. I'll bring it up again and see if her views on that have changed, but I don't think so. Update, 3 months later I sat her down and we had a long talk. Basically, she said she was changing her mind about a lot of things and she wasn't sure she wanted to have kids anymore. I let her know that that was getting in the way of the plans we had made together, and she told me she knew that and apologized. So I asked her why she didn't tell me, and she admitted that she was afraid I might be unhappy. If she had told me, I would have understood. We would have talked things through and worked something out. What hurts me most isn't that she changed her mind on something so big. It's that she changed her mind on something so big and didn't tell me about it at all, knowing how important this was to me. After about a month of a lot of talking, we came to a conclusion. There was no getting around the issue. Our relationship was, essentially, over. I still think she's attractive, amazing, intelligent, funny, and one of the most interesting people in the world, which is why I told her that, for the sake of any future relationships, it's best we avoid contact as much as possible. Because we didn't break up over a fight or infidelity but for a rational reason, it would be too easy for us to fall in love again or something and continue the cycle. I can't blame her for anything more than I can blame myself, and she's handled it all very well. We're truly having a velvet divorce, if you could call it that. Splitting everything we've saved together as evenly as we can, selling the apartment and each of us moving somewhere else. All of mine will remain mine, and hers will remain hers. She doesn't want it to be any harder than I do. Both of us have our lawyers, of course, but it's being handled with transparency and fairness as much as we can. And yet it still hurts inside. When we finally agreed to file, I sat down and cried, thinking that I had just pushed away the most wonderful person in my life, the person closest to me and most sincere to me over my life goal. And then the next day I realized she had ceased to be that person to me, not on the day we divorced, but on the day she changed her mind on something that affected both of us and didn't even try to tell me. Our relationship was already dying, since it lacked the trust and communication a step like that required. I think that's what's actually hurting me the most. It won't be easy at all, but at least I've taken the steps necessary, and I think that in a few years' time I'll find someone else, someone to connect with who shares my life goals. And maybe 5, 6, or 10 years from now I'll have children with that person. And in 20 years, those children and the mother of my children will mean so much more to me than anything in the world, and I'll be glad I became a father, because I know that's what I truly want out of life, even more than a great career or a nice apartment or a wealthy wife. I will miss her more than anyone, and maybe in those 20 years I'll still think of her occasionally. She's been great about it, but probably because she's realized the relationship was doomed just as I did. I hope she gets all she wants in life, and I don't mean that sarcastically or cynically. She deserves it. It really hurts and I hate to have to write it, but I figured you all deserve to know, even if it's late. Also, writing this all down is kind of cathartic, in a way. TLDR, she doesn't want kids. We're getting a divorce. It's not a horrible divorce, but I still feel empty and sad. But deep down, I also feel optimistic about getting what I truly want out of the future.